Brownies. Here we go. Here we go, Brownies. Here we go. Yeah, this for my dogs from the east to the west side. You rockin' brown and orange with me, baby, let's ride. Represent the land, let them know. Tell them, here we go, Brownies. Here we go. Yeah, here we go.
Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of the Here We Go Brownies podcast. I'm Allie Heisong, coming at you live from Pensacola, Florida. Joined with me out in beautiful Cleveland, Ohio. We've got Dustin out at 5-Iron Golf, it seems. Dustin, what's going on? How are you?
Guys, out here at 5-Iron Golf, right down here in downtown Cleveland, Ohio on Euclid Avenue. If you want to ever come out here and join us for 5-Iron Golf, guess what? If you use the code Brownie40, that's right, Brownie, BROWNIE 40, you get 40% off. That's 40% off anytime you come in and want to use the simulators. They have soccer with golf's kind of the, what they obviously lean towards, but 40% off an hourly rate of the simulators. I mean, who doesn't want almost half off coming here and swinging the club and doing that? So that there's no expiration date on that, guys. So come on down here, get your butt down here, play some golf. When it's muggy, come inside. Hit the ball around. But yeah, 40% off. And you can enjoy that time anytime you're here.
There you go. There you have it. Dustin, how are you? How's it going down at 5-Iron?
It's good. I hear the balls snapping. You can hear them going around. I don't think tonight I'll wander around tonight. I think I'll just stay put because we have a special guest coming on the show tonight. Treyton Welch, the Browns' new rookie tight end out of the University of Wyoming, the Cowboys, will be joining us here in just a few minutes from the show, live from Greenbrier, West Virginia, where he got his first dose of rookie mini camp on Monday. So we'll get an update from him and see how the boys are doing. I know I've already talked to him a little bit about this, but see how he's bonding with the chief, that being the joke. So,
I think that's going to be a really interesting conversation. And one thing I want to bring up is, a lot of undrafted free agents, have had not just have made the roster, but have had significant success with the Cleveland Browns. I mean, we can go back to D'Anthony Bell, last year, Ronnie Hickman. I think there's a very real opportunity and possibility for a guy like Treyton Welch to not only make this team, but make a significant impact. I mean, if you look at the tight end room, Dustin, we lose Harrison Bryant. So we've got David Njoku, who is just the security blanket for this offense. Jordan Akins after that. And then what? I mean, yes, we've got Giovanni Ricci. I think he's going to be a serviceable tight end also. But I think that there's a path forward for somebody like Treyton Welch where, just a young kind of a raw player could be very beneficial, special teams and on the offense.
Well, yeah, his blocking skills, right? That's another thing. We always forget about that when it comes to the tight end position. We know David Njoku is a great catcher and a good, run after the catch to get those additional yards. But sometimes you just need a guy to lay somebody out and put a block on somebody downfield. And guess what? He comes from Wyoming. It's very cold there. It's, we talked about Josh Allen in the past, and, he goes to Buffalo. I think he's going to fit in just fine on the lake shores of Lake Erie on those cold, windy November and December days. He'll be like, nah, it's just like home back in. And by the way, guess where he's from? Minnesota. Another cold place. So he basically was born in the cold, anywhere he's been for his life or his childhood. So it'd be fun to get him on the show. Yeah,
I'm really excited to talk to him. Of course, we will have Dr. David Ullery on here just a little bit. Dustin, when can we expect Treyton Welch on the show?
8:15. He'll be coming on the show tonight.
All right, 10 more minutes, everybody. But in most recent Browns news, we got to talk about Amari Cooper. Some exciting news on that front. He's going to remain a Cleveland Brown for the foreseeable future. But Amari Cooper on a restructured deal. So the details regarding that contract is the Browns will provide him $5 million through incentives as well as guaranteeing the original $20 million base salary. So one thing to know, this is not an extension. There are no additional years put on the contract, but he gets the guaranteed money, but he does still remain a potential free agent at the end of the season. So he will be a Cleveland Brown for the 2024 football season. But what happens next year is still a question mark. But one thing I do want to talk about is, this is mutually beneficial. It's very good for the Cleveland Browns in the sense that, this is, they don't owe him anything after this year. They could talk extensions later on this year or in the offseason.
Yeah.
I think that the Browns would like to keep him around for the next few years, but also really good for Amari. You just get some guaranteed money. Go out and do what you do and either test the market or remain in Cleveland. So your thoughts on this restructuring?
Yeah, the rumor around the town was he wanted a 3-year deal. The Browns would land on a 2-year deal. And I'm like, I don't know if the Browns are going to do that based on, they took the contract on from the Cowboys. They knew what they were getting. But, I mean, I'm not saying 31 is old, but, he's going to be turning he's going to be turning 31 soon and, injuries do creep up as you get older in the National Football League. I mean, look at Conklin and some of these guys that get into their latter part of their years. It's just, it's nothing against them. It's just that's where you are in your career. So I think they don't sign Jerry Jeudy for no reason. They want to see how he develops this year.
Yeah.
Obviously, we want to see Tillman rise and get, more production out of him. So I think this is kind of a year where the Browns felt like they can see how these other guys develop, Elijah Morris, all these guys, see what they become, and they'll have their answer probably 2/3 into the season. Like you said, maybe it's like, hey, by the way, Amari, we like you. We want to sign you to another extension of another 1-year deal, right? And then going into the playoffs, there's no controversy if he's going to be here back next year. I could see that. I could see in the middle of the season, hey, look, we want you to be on another 1-year deal. Are you cool with that? Yes, great. Here's my incentives. But I think they just really want to see where these rookies develop and see what Jerry Jeudy's an unknown at this point to the Cleveland Browns. We think he's going to be good, but we don't know, right? So that's my theory. The Browns just basically wanted to roll out with what they have. They certainly wanted to get him back in on that deal, and I don't think they wanted to extend it, but they had to incentivize him with some money, right? And that's what they obviously did in this situation.
One thing that I think Andrew Berry in this front office is really good at when it comes to the contracts of players is always maintaining leverage. Andrew Berry, obviously that's why he's a good GM. He's good with the financial aspect, but also just good in making sure that the state of the organization remains intact for years to come. And I think that the Browns carry the leverage into this conversation. Amari really didn't have much. And I think it was obviously in the Browns' best interest to make sure that they take care of Amari. And, he's been such a valuable player and a valuable asset to this organization to make sure that they do get him essentially what he wants to have him remain a Cleveland Brown and not have any animosity or anything like that. Right. But at the end of the day, the Browns held the leverage here. And I think that's one thing that you can look at any contract outside of possibly Deshaun Watson's. And even that, it's still not as bad as like some of the others that you've seen in the league. But look at any contract that Andrew Berry has constructed. And there's a lot of team-friendly leverage baked into those.
Well, yeah. And I think if you look at with, Dustin Hopkins deal he got and some of these, I think it's very it's not done by accident the way Andrew Berry does business, right? Like I think the Deshaun Watson actual contract's the only outlier when you look at what the Browns have done from, a financial standpoint. That's why they're talking to JOK now, right? That's why they're doing these things, because they're like, look, what we can get JOK for now may not be the same price 2 years from now when he's a Pro Bowler, right? Like those things just go up in value. And look at the wide receiver market. What happened to it this offseason? That kind of just continues to go up. So I think I don't know where the ceiling is on these things, but look at the quarterback position, like what it's turned into, and how the Browns were horrible for what they signed him for. But I think they knew Josh Allen, all those other contracts were about ready to roll out, and they're like, we ain't going to pay $50 million for Deshaun Watson. He's still an unknown. We don't know if he's going to come back.
Mm-hmm.
Now the guaranteed money, now we can all debate that. That's probably the elephant in the room when it comes to the money. But at the end of the day, I think there's 6 or 7 other quarterbacks that are paid more per year now than Deshaun Watson is. So again, I think, Andrew Berry, I always feel like Andrew Berry, and you know this about Allie, and we love Andrew Berry. And one of these days we'll have Andrew Berry on the show. Mark my word, we're going to get Andrew Berry on here. But he knows what he's doing. Like I always feel like he's one step ahead in that process of looking behind door number 2 or 3, knowing what he needs to do so he's not surprised. And he admittedly, he came on 92 through the fan this offseason, and he goes, usually I can predict things, but I can't predict what happened at the quarterback position this last, he goes, that's one that I was like, what else are you going to throw at me at the quarterback position? Because everything else, I can figure that out. But usually he's pretty savvy in that space of what he's doing. So.
Yeah. I just find it to be so interesting. We go back a couple of years ago when this regime was brought in, Andrew Berry, the analytics guys versus John Dorsey's football guys, and how there was a lot of fans that were saying, this is never going to work. This is never going to work. It's funny how those conversations have just been laid to rest in Cleveland, where, analytics are what an analytics is just information, and it's all about how it's used. So I think that Andrew Berry has done such a good job analyzing this market and really just taking such a economical approach in every aspect of it, to really maintain balance within the organization in the best interest, long term, but also paying these guys. You mentioned last week, one thing this team isn't afraid to do is pay its players. I don't think anybody can say that Jimmy and Dee Haslam, say what you want about them, they're not cheap. They will pay their players. And I think getting ahead of it is always in the best interest. Like Jeremiah Usu-Koromoa, I would not be surprised to see that deal get done in the next just handful of weeks here, because that is going to be prime opportunity to get a really good athlete and linebacker locked down for several years to come before, the next elite linebackers contract comes due. We already saw what Roquan Smith did. And I think obviously two different types of players, but being able to get in on that early is going to be best. And Andrew Berry seems to find a way to get that done.
Well, and what's interesting about that is the Haslams have always paid. What the Haslams had to do in the past was overpay to get a quality athlete to come to Cleveland. Now that Andrew Berry has come in place, he's like, no, we are a destination now where athletes want to come and play, because guess what? The culture changed, right? Like we talked about this, 4 or 5 years ago, or at least you did, alignment. There was no alignment, period. There was none. And you would have to have someone like Jimmy Haslam overpay to get a free agent to come in here and solidify a position. Maybe a guy in the middle of his career or the end of his career, but you had to overpay him to get him to come here. And if you look at the bad teams in the NFL, they still kind of have to do that, right? Hey, if I'm going to come there and play because I know we're going to suck for 2 or 3 years, you're going to pay me more money, right? Because I ain't going to a Super Bowl. I'm not going to make a playoff run. So I damn well better get paid for my services and be a good athlete, and I'll show you how good I am. And I'll try to fight to get us, play the best game I can. But it's kind of weird, but that's kind of where the NFL is. If you're the Kansas City Chiefs and you want a wide receiver, you can be like, you want to play with Patrick Mahomes, or you can have somebody else. That's a pretty good Tom Brady, right? Like when you bring somebody on like that, you don't have to worry about those kind of things. You just naturally say, no, I want to come play there. And finally, the Browns have finally changed that culture after 2 decades. It's crazy to say, but after 2 decades. So,
and also just going back to the leverage aspect, if you go back a couple of years ago when we made the trade for Amari Cooper in the first place and inherited that contract, at that time we gave up a 5th round pick to acquire Amari Cooper. Look at how little we had to give up and how little we had to pay over the past few years to have a 1,000-yard receiver, to have just a safety net for this chaotic offense at the time. So it just goes to show the stability within that the organization and the alignment that is now there that I've been preaching. I was going crazy about it a couple of years ago, Dustin.
I think every show's we could have had a contest. How many times did Ali bring up alignment in a 1 hour show?
It was unhinged. Yeah, it was unhinged. Okay. We are going to bring on our next guest. Before we do so, this interview with Cleveland Browns tight end Treyton Welch is brought to you by our friends over at Lorello Vineyards.
Here we go, Brownies. Here we go. Woof, woof.
Hello, welcome to Lorello Vineyards, Larry and Kim Lorello. We have a beautiful Here We Go Brownies wine that we would like to offer to you this season as we did last season. We have several other award-winning wines, lovely entertainment and events coming this summer. So come and see us, wine a bit, you'll feel better.
Yeah, we're looking forward to seeing you at the Muni lot this fall. Go Browns.
All right, that is Lorello Vineyards, and we're going to go and bring on Treyton Welch to the program. Treyton, how are you?
Good. How are you guys?
Doing great. Thanks for taking the time for us. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So
Well,
talk to us. What's going on? Where are you at? You're down at Greenbrier, right?
Not so. I didn't know exactly when we'd be heading out, but tomorrow's the date that we're flying out. So tonight's a preparation night, if you will, and we've been here though since Monday was the rookie report date. So.
Cool. That doesn't.
So, as I say, we got a little bit of time to talk on the phone. I think it was Saturday. I was heading into the Guardians game, and we had a little bit of conversation about, coming to a cold weather team. You played in Wyoming. We had a fun conversation about Boise State, me being from Boise, and seeing a lot of Wyoming football over my lifetime. So, tell us how long have you actually? Obviously, you came to the rookie mini camp earlier this year. What's it been like? What have you liked about Cleveland? Obviously, you come from Minnesota, so you're kind of a Midwest guy. Tell us what you think of Cleveland and what surprised you so far?
Yeah, it's been a great experience so far. Everything I've seen in Cleveland has been great. I came from Buffalo, Minnesota, which is a little bit smaller of a town, and then go to Laramie, Wyoming for college. It's a great college town, but it's a little bit smaller on the smaller end. So we always got the whole, there's nothing to do in Laramie, Wyoming, and all that kind of stuff. But I was always a guy that loved Laramie, Wyoming, because there is a lot to do, outdoors and whatever in between. But it was a good experience for me because I don't need a huge city or anything like that. So coming from Laramie to Cleveland now, I haven't been able to see a whole lot, but what I have seen, it's been great. So I went to a Cleveland Guardians game, and that was awesome. The stadium is cool. The environment, the fan base seems to be amazing. So everything that I've heard being on the team has been great things to say about Cleveland and the fan base. And but I've been here since rookie mini camp, and then we had that short summer break. I actually got married in that break, so praise the Lord. Yeah, it was a good time. So but it's been a great time.
Awesome. So talk to us about Cleveland. Why Cleveland? Talk to us once the draft concluded. What were those conversations like? How did you settle on Cleveland? Who was calling who? How'd that whole process work out?
It all happens pretty quick. You hope to be drafted. That was the goal, but it didn't happen. So you have to make a decision that you have to make, but sometimes you don't want to make because you want to be drafted. So when 32 teams pass you up, it's a tough feeling, but it all happens quick. And essentially, a lot of it goes through my agent. There'll be coaches that call me personally, but a lot of the negotiation stuff or whatever you want to call it goes through my agent. So he got most of the necessary calls, if you will, and I was able to talk to coaches, which is also necessary. But overall, it happened very quick, and at the end of the day, I was with my family. It was just me and my family, and we prayed about it and felt like Cleveland was the place to go. So.
I will say, I don't know if you're aware, but Cleveland has a very recent history with undrafted free agents and their success. I mean, a couple of years ago, safety, D'Anthony Bell, he was kind of a training camp favorite, makes a very significant impact that season. Last year, Ronnie Hickman, also a safety, kind of the same situation, makes a very immediate impact. And I think, you've got a great path carved out for you in the tight end room and what that can potentially look like with the Browns losing Harrison Bryant this offseason. So tell the fans, tell those that are listening, what kind of player you are.
I want to be a hybrid player, one who hopefully coach can, trust to do anything he wants you to do on the field to the best of my ability. I'm not a perfect player, but I want to give it my all in any situation, in every situation. So, in college at Wyoming, I always wanted coaches to trust me on any play call on the play call sheet to say, hey, if we want you to go block power, then hopefully we can trust you to do that. If we want you to go run a sail route, then hopefully we can trust you to do that. Just everything in between there. I want to be able to execute the best of my ability. Like I said, I'm not perfect, but being a receiver in high school, it was also a leap to become a tight end in college, and you just got to learn the blocking game in college and become better at blocking guys that are much bigger than you, if you will. So there's been a lot of experiential learning, and I always want to be a guy that soaks up whatever I can and be coachable. And so a lot of learning, and I just want to be a true hybrid player that hopefully like I said, coaches can trust in any situation to do the best of my ability.
So Treyton, before you came on, we were actually talking about this. like, like you said, sometimes when you're at the end of the draft or later in the draft, you don't get to really pick a team you get to go to, right? And then, like you said, your agent gets involved and you start kind of looking at what might be the best fit. And Allie and I was talking about, me coming out from the West. You grew up in a city that's or played at a university where it's cold, it's windy. In Minnesota, it's cold, it's windy, and get ready, it's cold and windy in Cleveland in the wintertime. And I was like, he's kind of built for Cleveland. And I say this because when Josh Allen, another former guy that was at the University of Wyoming, went to Buffalo, I was like, he is built, he is ready-made for the elements in Buffalo. And look what's happened with Josh Allen out in Buffalo. And I think, to your point, you're going to, sometimes just need to lay some guy out and put a block on somebody downfield in a game like that. And I think that will bode well for you very much here in Cleveland, playing in those type of elements and just being that second nature. And my second question to you is, Njoku, obviously the Chief, have you gotten to spend some time with him in the off season, kind of bond a little bit? What's it been like, you guys talking, tight end room and stuff like that? And what's that relationship been like with you and the Chief?
He's been a great role model, and he was in and out during the off season, and obviously here now, and he holds us all to a standard. We've talked about it in the room, and he wants to hold us all to a standard that has been set by coaches and by himself. So it's been good to learn from him these past couple of days, especially, and just hopefully lean on learning from him going forward in camp. So he's a great guy overall, and is bought into Cleveland, of course, as you guys have probably seen all over the media. He's definitely bought into Cleveland and wants to be here and win a Super Bowl. So
yeah.
Clearly, there's a lot of quarterbacks on this roster right now. You've got Deshaun, you've got Tyler Huntley, DTR, Jameis, and not to mention anybody that's brought in during this training camp period. Has there been anybody that you've already kind of built a connection with? You've got some chemistry with that's throwing you the ball. Can you kind of speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, they're all great. They're all phenomenal leaders, and they're all definitely bought in. You can't really tell the difference between all of them, just the way they work and the way they carry themselves on the field as leaders. And I was able to work out with DTR a little bit more because the first and second years were together for a little bit of the OTA period portion of things. So I was able to work out with him a little bit. And Jameis was also there working out with us, and Sean and Huntley as well. So they were all there, and it's been great relationship building so far. And like I said, the Browns are in a good spot for quarterback across the board, just as far as leadership goes, and leaders that are bought into, again, of course, winning a Super Bowl here in Cleveland. So,
well, as I say, Treyton, about 6 months ago, 5 months ago, I don't know if we could have 6 months ago could have said that, because we went through 5 quarterbacks last year, and I think the Browns learned that we need to have at least 2 and possibly 3. Allie brought up a really good point. These undrafted free agents that have made this roster, and we always talk about it makes you want to work a little harder, be the best you can be. Tell me one of the things that, like you said, you're obviously leaning on someone like David Njoku, and I really appreciate that you said, I can be a better player. And I always say we can all be better in anything we do in life, right? If you're not trying to be better, you're not going to be the best player you can be the next day and the next day. Tell me one thing that you want to focus on as you go into training camp, and what are some of those goals that you look at, or one main goal that you're going to try to set for yourself at the end of it, no matter what happens, right? At the end of training camp, you can stay back and go, I accomplished this because this is what I put out to do.
Yeah, I think, certainly for me, at the end of the day, I want to do the best of my ability in anything and everything that I do. And, for the glory of God, and it's by the grace of God that I'm in this position and I'm able to do this, and he's given me the gifts, and so I want to be able to use that for his glory. And like I said, at the end of the day, I want to look back at camp, no matter how it goes overall, there's a lot of unknowns, but I want to look back and just know that I put my best foot out there, put my best effort, put my best everything on the field, and left it all on the field, because a big piece of what I like to do and want to do and want to strive in is of course, on the field, but also off the field. Off the field is so important to me, and it has been for, my college career and my high school career. If I'm doing things off the field that jeopardize our team or, maybe my performance on the field, like what am I doing? What kind of leader would I be? What kind of teammate would I be to other people if I say things and want to do things on the field but don't off the field? And so ultimately for me, like I said, on the field, I want to give everything I have and leave it all on the field looking back at the NFL camp, training camp. And then off the field, I also want to know that I did everything I could in the meeting room, outside the building, outside the facility, whatever it is. I want to know that I left everything and did the best of my ability. So
That's incredible. Treyton, we are rooting for you. We really appreciate your time.
Hey, Treyton, I was just going to tell you, funny story. Allie is getting married this year as well, in November. So congratulations to you and your bride on getting married. We wish you the best of luck, and we look forward to seeing you in Cleveland, and we are going to root really hard for you, and hopefully you make this roster on this football team.
thank you so much. Congratulations, Allie.
Thanks. You as well. Take care. Go Browns.
Thank you so much. Go Browns.
That was awesome. High character right there. I can already tell we're going to have such a great leader in that tight end room. Dustin, we come away from some player interviews, and, when we had Demetric Felton on a couple of years ago, I said, wow, high energy. Same with DeAnthony Bell. Man, I love his energy. With Treyton, you can already tell right away, he's going to have a very bright future just based off of his own determination. I mean, a lot of us can't get on this podcast or in the comments and say that we've watched a lot of Wyoming football. I know you can, but not a lot of us can, to know the football player, Treyton Welch. But man, just talking to him for 10, 15 minutes. Yeah, you feel pretty good about that.
Well, I can tell you this. Andrew Berry doesn't do anything by accident, right? And I took away from this interview just right now a high character guy that basically said, off the field is just as important what I do on the field. And I think and what's crazy, that's what Stefanski preaches every day to his players. I know that. And the fact that he already has that attitude, and that without even, playing in a preseason game, I'm excited because the Green Bay Packers are going to be here in town less than 2 weeks away.
Yeah.
But it'll be exciting to see him out there. But I think he has a damn good shot of making this football team based on the depth in that room. And I think he could definitely I'm excited to see him. And Allie, you're right. A lot of people have not been able to see him play football. But I can tell you one thing. He catches the ball, Allie, and he knows how to lay somebody out. And, with his height and what he did, I think he's going to be a good player. And, if he makes the roster, great. But I think if he doesn't, I think he has an opportunity somewhere else. But you're right. Just his character alone is going to get him a long ways in the National Football League.
Yep, most definitely. Guys, if you don't have Stadium Mustard in your kitchen this season, you are doing it wrong. The iconic brand, the iconic taste, beloved from ballparks to backyards and everywhere in between. Stadium Mustard is a smooth brown mustard rich in both taste and tradition. And by the way, it is loved by millions, so be sure to head on over to stadiummustard.com to shop now. And Dustin, before we turn it over to our next topic here, why don't you tell our listeners about our friends over at True Fan Travel?
True Fan Travel, guys, you got to get on that charter flight to Vegas. Join us. Go to truefantravel.com. Come join us in Vegas. It's going to be fun. Josh Cribbs is going to be on that plane. Who doesn't want to be on that party plane with a bunch of Browns fans to Las Vegas, Nevada? Come on. Who doesn't want to be a part of that? But if for some reason you can't, why don't you go to possibly, New Orleans, another fun city, and hang out with Kevin Mack, our good friend of the program, Kevin Mack. Or maybe you want to go to Washington, D.C., or go down to Jacksonville. Lots of great away games this year. And the Cleveland Browns have partnered with True Fan Travel to book your travel. They do it all, the shuttle, the tickets, it's all done. You just call them up, and it's a great opportunity.
Yeah, a couple more for you. Also, just want to tell you about our friends over at Hartville Marketplace and Flea Market. Guys, if you haven't been down there yet, really, really cool situation. We've got over 3 acres of indoor shopping, 50 unique shops. It's fully heated and air conditioned. They've got antiques, treasures. They've got food, meat, cheese, coffee, pretty much anything and everything that you could possibly need. And if that's not enough for you, head on outside to their outdoor flea market with over 12 acres and over 1,000 vendors. They are open Mondays, Fridays, Saturdays, year round. So be sure to go check them out also. I just want to get back. Go ahead.
So you know who they have down there next weekend?
What do they have down there next weekend?
Next weekend they have Hall of Famer Paul Warfield from the Browns, champion Gary Collins, and our good friend Bob Golick. So tell your dad to go down there and see Bob next Saturday. Doesn't have to drive that far, right? Tell dad, go down and see Bob at the mall.
He love that. Troy High song would really be interested in that. I want to go back to a point that Treyton mentioned that really carried some weight as it pertains to this Browns offense. We asked him, there's obviously a lot of quarterbacks, right? You've got Deshaun, Jameis, DTR, and Tyler Huntley all throwing you the ball. And he said there's not a big difference on the field. You can't tell a huge difference in who's throwing the ball. And I think that is so important, right? Obviously, we can all identify that they're different players and they have different styles.
Right.
But Andrew Berry's just approach this offseason to bring in players to highlight Deshaun's skill set essentially and to be reflective of that. I just think that's really unique that you have a lot of all of these guys can do some of the same things, right? In their abilities and their vision on the field. So I just think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, I just want to share this with you, Allie. We want to talk about high character. He goes, "Thank you for having me on the show. I really appreciate your time and the both of you." Yeah. Again, class act guy. He said, "Thank you for having us on the show."
Right away. That's
really rooting for that guy. But yeah, I'm excited. We'll see where this goes. And I got to tell you, Allie, there's a little buzz now. There's a little buzz now in town. It's like someone flipped the switch, and you got training camp happened. You see all the guys are returning back, and then they're heading to Greenbrier. This town is about to become very Browns, and the Guardians may take a back seat for a little while because people love their Browns.
That typically happens, right? This in the summer, once everything dies down from the draft and free agency, there's not a lot of news. That's a great time for everybody to get involved in going to the Guardians games. And obviously that's like prime time to do it. And I'm so glad that one, they're having a great season, and two, that so many fans are partaking and going to those games. But you're right, it is like a flip of a switch. As soon as there's a little chill in the air and everybody's ready to rock and roll when it comes to the Cleveland Browns, you can tell there's an energy about it. And we're starting to have some more Browns news. They're getting ready to go to Greenbrier. We're going to have some takeaways from that. We're going to have some media availability with this coaching staff. So there's going to be a lot to talk about. And I think that just gets everybody all amped up. I know it's got me all amped up. So we're going to turn it over. Okay, yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, give everybody an update. I'm watching right now. Top of the 8th, 1-1, Tigers, Guardians over here at Progressive Field. 1-1.
1-1. There you go. There you have it. Okay, we are going to bring on Dr. David Ullery for the medical moment. Before we do so, here is a quick video. Excuse me, I got to get that pulled up. While I pull that up, Dustin, why don't you tell our listeners about City Barbecue?
Guys, if you have not had City Barbecue, you've got to go get it. 7 Northeast locations here in the greater Cleveland area. Come enjoy great barbecue. By the way, look on our comments and our Facebook page, a $50 gift card. Tell us why you love City Barbecue. Tag a Browns fan. Follow us on our show, and you'll be entered to win that $50 gift card. That's right, $50. Who doesn't want $50 worth of barbecue? I'm just getting hungry thinking about it. But $50 worth of barbecue, 7 locations in Northeast Ohio, from Medina to Strongsville to Solon, many locations here in Northeast Ohio, mostly in the burbs, in the greater Cleveland, Northeast Ohio. But go sign up for that $50 gift card so you can take your family and go have some fun and enjoy City Barbecue here in Cleveland. Also, my apologies. I just played a video in the middle of that. A little technical difficulty over here in Pensacola, Florida. I didn't see it. We're good to go. So before we bring on Dr. David Ullery, here's a quick word from our newest sponsor over at Cage Thunder.
Kind of cool being back where my hometown is, gives me a little refresher when I was young, reminds me why I'm doing it, I think it's a little more motivating than usual, actually, for once. I move different than most people. I can feel it, I can see it. It's not all about, who can do mitts better, etc. I can feel for it. This is just something that has always come natural to me. This is all I do. I've morphed to know as much as I can about this craft, mentally and physically and everything. But before I even started it, I knew I understood combat a little better than the average person, I like to think. Because once I get a hold of somebody or I hit them, they feel the difference.
You can get this if you want. I don't think you will if you're down here. More about this.
There you have it. Those are our newest friends over at Cage Thunder.
August 17th. Fight in the
right,
spots.
There you go. Let's bring on our doctor here, Dr. David Ullery. David, what's going on? How are we doing?
Doing great this evening. How are the two of you? How are you? Sorry.
There's Dr. David Ullery live from
got-
my kitchen.
We got comedians looking at each other.
I know how she is. How are you, Dustin?
I'm good. But you know what? I like that. That's you being a little bit of a rabble rouser, like smacking the table. I like it. That's getting a little.
Yeah, you don't want to get me in the Muni lot. I'll tell you that right now.
Oh, well, I'm challenging you to come to the Muni lot. Allie and I took a nice toll through the Muni lot, and that's how Here We Go Brownies wine became into existence, because it was going through the Muni lot. So
That's true.
That's right.
That's true. So, David, what do we got tonight? What are we talking about? Talking a little running back
So-
action.
Yeah, and I mean, just the off-season drudge as it continues. But a couple things I want to touch on, and one of them is probably very insignificant, doesn't matter, but I came across it, and I at least want to bring it up. So we know that Browns opened up week 1 against the Cowboys, and Dak Prescott was seen in a boot 2 weeks ago at his camp, his annual camp down in Texas. And so it created a little bit of stir and buzz on the internet, because it was the same leg that he injured back in 2020 when he had the open or compound fracture, where he dislocated his ankle, broke a bone, and it broke through the skin. So not an insignificant injury, but now almost 4 years ago, and he was seen wearing a boot on that same ankle. So, of course, people were asking questions, people were concerned, and as a Browns fan, it piques your interest a little bit, just because I see you, Jason. I bet that's true. But it definitely piques your interest as a Browns fan, because you're thinking, obviously, you want to play teams at their best and beat them at their best. But anytime you hear of possible injury to a starting quarterback, it's cause for concern. But he downplayed it quite a bit and said immediately after all of this buzz was created that he's just getting older. It's the same ankle he broke a while ago, and after a couple of days of hard training, he got a little sore. He was going on a fishing trip, and he just wanted to put a boot on to protect it. So are the media reading into it too much? Probably, but regardless, it's something that was seen and noted, and just to keep an eye on. I mean, you never know. That's definitely, he's going to have some arthritis in that ankle going on 3 or 4 years now. After that, it's probably starting to develop, and it's going to be sore and achy, and so it's not going to limit him necessarily to not be able to play. But he may show signs of rust or just being a little bit slower those first couple of weeks out, and it may have an impact on the outcome of that game the week after Labor Day. So we'll see what happens.
Interesting. I think there's some, honestly, just a little bit aside from that, but like just taking it down to Dallas, I think it's really interesting what they've got going on. This whole Dak Prescott situation and his injury kind of unknown, but then also the CeeDee Lamb situation. I think it's actually pretty funny that Amari Cooper got his contract before CeeDee did, and that was I just think that's a little bit funny. But also CeeDee Lamb holding out until he gets a new contract. I think there's Dallas is. I wouldn't want to be a Cowboys fan right now. I think that they're kind of about to explode.
Well, what about Jordan Love? I mean, Jordan Love's still out, right? Did he get his contract? Did he end up signing?
I don't know if he did or not.
I thought he was out, or he wasn't going to attend camp. Jordan Love. So
I
just saw that rumbling about Jordan Love. So again, another quarterback kind of, which I think is kind of weird, because he's only in the league a couple of years. I don't know.
I mean, he's due though. I mean, he would be coming due. I haven't heard those rumblings, so I don't know. I can't speak to that, but I mean, we're starting to see that, right? There's some unhappy unhappy players going into training camp. We see that every year, but I just think, I don't know. I wouldn't want to be a Dallas fan right now. They scare me.
Yeah, going back to the Dallas situation, they're always kind of on the edge. You think they have the talent to make it, and then they don't. They kind of fall on their faces, and at some point, the levee's going to break, and they're not going to be able to hold up anymore. And so, don't be surprised that if CD continues to hold out or doesn't get a contract, it becomes disgruntled. And if Dak doesn't stay healthy, and if there's issues 5-6 weeks into the season, CD's going to be looking for some moves, and I think the Browns might be on alert for that for sure. I mean, they already got success taking one wide receiver from Dallas, so they might as well take another one.
You could do a player for player, Ayuk for CD. That'd be interesting.
Well, here's the crazy thing, right? Like, the whole reason that allegedly Amari Cooper was let go because CeeDee Lamb was going to be that guy. And then, here goes Amari over to Cleveland, and now he's disgruntled. It's a very odd situation that you think that's the guy that's going to get paid, right? Because he's the one that is your heir apparent. So it's just kind of weird, everything. But, I mean, how many one-year contracts do they have in Dallas? It's a ton of them, right? Like, it seems like they're one of the highest team that has the most one-year contracts right now. So I don't know what they're doing over in Dallas, but
all right.
I think Miles Garrett's – go ahead.
All right, my hot take is Mike McCarthy is out after the season. Dak Prescott is no longer the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys after this season, and they just implode. The Dallas Cowboys implode after. David, what's going on with these dogs?
They're chasing the cat. It's insanity in here right now. I'm sorry.
Anyways, David, let's move on. Let's talk a little running.
Yep. So I think we touch on it every week, but I think rightfully so. So I came across some interesting data just based on ACL injuries. Surprise, surprise. Kind of relating to ACL injuries in the NFL over the last 3 years. This is from Jesse Morse, Dr. Jesse Morse on Twitter. Over the past 3 years, only 9.5% of players returning from an ACL tear finished in the top 20 at their position in fantasy the following season. So, I mean, obviously, it's got a little fancy twist, but either way, it has some relevance to production in the NFL. Right. And so their first season back after sustaining an ACL tear. I can't say if they suffered or not. Maybe it didn't hurt. I don't know. But their first season back after sustaining an ACL tear and then recovering, only 9.5%. That's less than 10% of the players who had one returned at top 20 in their position. So that is over those 3 years, it was 42 players who had an ACL tear, not obviously counting this upcoming season. And only 4 of them, 4 out of the 42, made it back to a top 20 in their position. Now, any guesses who those players might be, if you can have a little injury recall?
When was from what year forward?
The 20, I guess it would be 2020 through 2023.
So the last 3 years, the top 4 running backs that came back.
Nope, this is all players, all positions.
Oh, just players. Oh, okay.
Oh boy.
One of them is a division rival, as I can give you a little hint here.
I'm Joe Burrow.
Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
So in 2021, when Joe Burrow came back from his ACL injury, he did return in the top 20 of QBs. Obviously, there's only so many QBs, but still, he tore his ACL, had surgery, and came back. So that's one of the 42, or one of the 4, I should say.
Who had torn ACLs? Like, I just feel like last year was the year of Achilles, so that's just what's fresh in my mind, that I can't go back a couple of years ago to ACLs.
Give us, what is one of them wide receiver?
Yeah, there's a wide receiver. There's also a running back. Running back was pretty significant for fantasy last year. He was on one of my teams. Hint, Allie.
McCaffrey?
No, it was Breece Hall. He came back and had a really good season. And just to not delay, the other 2 were Chris Godwin and Robert Tonyan. So those 4 sustained ACL tears, had it reconstructed, and then came back to perform in the top 20 at their position. Now, notably, here are some players that tore their ACL and did not return at a high level of performance. Kyler Murray, Saquon, Cortland Sutton, Javonte Williams, and J.K. Dobbins. All 5 of these players, while having an ACL reconstructed and coming back to play, did not actually return and be top 20 in their position. So, little interesting just to see kind of the players who made it back and who didn't, but needless to say, that number is less than 10%. But so for those kind of on the lookout for this season for returning, obviously Nick Chubb is on that list, but we're also looking at Daniel Jones, Keaton Mitchell, Nyheim Hines, Mike Williams, Kendrick Bourne, Ashton Dulin, Russell Gage, TJ Hawkinson, and Tyler Higbee. So effectively,
right there.
Well, I can
So
tell
as
you,
I
as I say, I'm a betting man, and I am not betting that the fifth one to make your list to go back to the top 10 is Nick Chubb. I'm a betting man, and I am not betting against that man to add to your list of the 1 and 10, basically.
You know what
yeah.
jumped
So
there, David, was, and obviously I want to get back to this, but how many of those players have suffered multiple injuries from 2020 on? I mean, J.K. Dobbins stands out. He had an ACL and then an Achilles. I can't even imagine what the data would show for a player with two significant separate injuries on returning to be a productive player. I hate that for him because I love J.K., but that's got to be pretty tough too.
yeah, it'll be very interesting to see how someone like J.K. responds. I mean, obviously, we know as Ohio State fans that he was a monster in college and such a high level athlete. And I mean, what season or career record rushing holder at Ohio State. So he's one to definitely keep an eye on and see how he can recover now having an Achilles only a handful of years later. And then, I think, looking at someone like TJ Hawkinson's going to be interesting because his injury was pretty gruesome too. His was kind of akin to Nick Chubb's. While he may have not had the multi-ligament injuries, the appearance of it, I remember watching it and happening live. It was against the Lions. It was pretty ugly. And so that'll be another one to see, like, at a different position, how he responds. Because you don't hear very often of, a lineman. You never hear of a lineman tearing his ACL. And so someone who's, an inline tight end and someone who's out there making catches as well and playing the position kind of both ways. It'll be very, very interesting to see how he can respond from this as well. At the end of the day, obviously our focus is on Nick Chubb. It always has been, always will be for this podcast and this team. And I'm really, really excited to see where he gets to and if he puts up over 600 pounds squatting this week.
Well, David, that's a great segue because next week we're going to have former Browns running back coach Stump Mitchell on, and you can get some insight from him. And we're going to talk about that as these running backs come back. What's Nick Chubb look like, and some of these other guys in the NFL as we preview. If you can believe it or not, next Thursday night, 8 days away, is the Hall of Fame game. Is the official kickoff to NFL football. So we'll be talking a little bit more about that next week with Stump, and it'll be interesting to have you guys talk a little shop with the the injuries and stuff like that, and what he looks for at the NFL level. So,
one thing that I want to talk about. Sorry, David, I don't mean to cut you off here, but I want to talk about how just the probability swing here is. You've got Nick Chubb on that list, but also Nyheim Hines, and two of which are in the same, within the same position group. So that's actually pretty significant. I think that begs the question of, why didn't Andrew Berry do a little bit more in free agency? I think, we were all kind of pounding the table for somebody else to be added to that room. Obviously, we've got Deontay Foreman, and, you feel okay with going in there with Jerome Ford and everything like that. But I don't know, it's pretty significant to have two players on that list, not only from the same team, but from the same position group.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's definitely compelling to get. It would be great to kind of ask him a little bit more personally. What the approach was there, especially considering you've got two running backs now coming off of season-ending injuries. I guess one silver lining or consolation is that Hines' injury occurred in July before the season even started, and it was a non-football injury. And so I guess the maybe idea or thought was he should be or will be ready for the season. I haven't heard much about it this summer in the offseason so far. So when camp starts here in a week and a half or just over a week and a half or so, it'll be interesting to see what he's doing in practice and if he's in full participation, because that might be kind of his line of thought. He knew that this guy was a pretty good player and can bounce back from an injury, and he should be ready to go week one, even if Nick Chubb isn't. So at least there is some level of depth in the running back room, even if Nick Chubb is not suited up yet.
Yeah. Here's one from our good friend Larry Lorello. Doc, the game against the Cowboys is a 4:30 start. Any suggestions to service an 11-hour tailgate party in the Muni lot?
That's going to be a good time. I'll tell you what. That'll be a very raucous start to the season. And I would say come prepared. Drink some water. Maybe get an IV going. Maybe we can hook some fans up with a mobile IV company to get some hydration going. But, just be prepared.
Well, let me tell you, Allie and I know this all too well. That game that we went to, where they started playing rock music at 6 a.m. And the fact that this is a 4:30 basically kick, that is going to be the fans that enter that stadium will not be sober. Let's just call it for what it is. And they're going to go into that stadium pretty loud. And I think it's going to be a very boisterous crowd. And I got to tell you, I think the last time I saw the Vegas line, Cowboys were favored by 1. I'm like, this is insane to me. I realize the Cowboys are a good football team, but you're putting the Browns in prime time at home to kick off the season after having kind of a, let's just call it a bad taste in our mouth after the playoffs. No way. Like, I think it's a 7 or 10 point win. I'll call it now, 7 or 10 point win over the Cowboys. I don't think they are not going to be ready. Tom Brady's going to be in town for that. I just, it's crazy that the Cowboys are favored by 1. Like, people, go make your bets. Browns have got this. They're going to cover this.
Yeah, I would take the Browns in that too. I mean, obviously we haven't played the schedule game yet. I think that's a segment for another show, but I would take the Browns in that game. I think we're all amped up, right? We just talked about this, Dustin, about flipping the switch and how we're just so energized for this team. And, things have been pretty quiet for a while. And I think that's a good thing. Kind of being out of the media, being out of the news, being out of the headlines. That's good. We don't like being there. I'd rather just go into the season and, just prove it on the field. And I think this team's pretty hungry to do so. So I don't know. I do have a few concerns, David, just about the running back room. But like we said so many times on this podcast with you, if anybody is going to do it and come back and be, have a significant season returning from injury, it's Nick Chubb.
Definitely. He's got the pedigree for it. He's got the precedence for it. And he knows how to recover. And I think that's actually kind of an important thing that maybe I haven't talked about much is he's been through it before, and he knows what his body responds to and how his body responds. And even though it's another ACL tear, in a sense, it's kind of a leg up in the recovery game, just because he knows what he can do, how far he can push himself, and what feels right, and what he should or shouldn't do. And so that being said, like, the body can only go so far, but I definitely think in his experience, he's going to be able to make the most out of this recovery and do everything he can to give this team his 100%, his 110% at this point. So he's definitely got the.
I saw Chubb walking around with a Volkswagen on his back last week.
Yeah. So
if anybody's going to do it, place your bets.
Hey, so David, speaking of great players, and now you may or may not realize this, but the National Card Show is in Cleveland. It actually started today. So the who's of athletes are here in town, David. Barry Sanders, Jerry Rice, Joe Montana, all the legendary guys are here doing appearances out at the X Center. You probably know where that is, Allie, out by the airport. But it's the National Card Show. It kind of moves around, but you want to talk about some heavy hitters being in town. This town is full of Hall of Famers this weekend based on that. So,
yeah. David, I never told you this one. So my grandmother, as you know, she was on last week in the comments. She's got a restaurant that she owns in Minerva, Ohio, which is like nobody knows where that is. We'll just say that. David, one time she called me, and this was a couple of years ago, where I was doing this show, and she knows nothing about football, like not much. Mm-hmm. She calls me. She goes, "Hey, Jerry Rice was here." I said, I don't think that's true. So then, like, after doing some digging, like, lo and behold, he was just in town for like the Hall of Fame and was just driving around, and he was in Minerva, just went to the restaurant.
Oh my gosh.
Jerry Rice. Yeah, she called me. She's like, "Hey, do you know who Jerry Rice is? He was here." And I said, "Yeah, I."
Okay, that is a total grandma. Like, she could have got that picture, put it on the wall in the restaurant, right? They made it like a.
And honestly, if those two would have taken a picture together, Patty Esbert and Jerry Rice, she would have been the one autographing it. Like, she's iconic.
I saw it. She thought I was in a spaceship last week. I think I can't. So here's my question, Allie. I live in Ohio. If I wanted to go see your grandma's, it's your grandma's restaurant, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Where? How far is that from Canton? Give me a geographic.
From Canton, 25, 30 minutes.
Okay, south, north, east, west.
South Canton.
So, okay. And what kind of restaurant? Family restaurant? Just like a sit down?
Delicious. It's a delicious restaurant.
It's called
So you've
Grinders.
been, okay, so David, you've been there. Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
we
Oh yeah.
Allie, we've been doing the show for how long? And we haven't given your grandmother a free shout out for her
I
restaurant.
know. Well, she would kill me if she knew I was talking about this. So I know she's not watching. So
Okay, let's get some business. What's the name of the restaurant?
it's Grinders. Grinders Above and Beyond Minerva. Everybody go there and say hi to Patty.
Grinders
Grinders Above and Beyond. Yep.
Grinders Above and Beyond. Go see it. In what city?
Yep. Minerva, Ohio. There you go. Go see Patty.
Yeah, there you go. There's a free.
It was,
By the way, David, we've been doing this show for 4 years, and she's never given her grandmother a free plug for the show.
She'd kill me. So
well, I just say
Sorry.
if you know anything about BAM, she doesn't need it. I would say it's probably the oversized cow in the backyard that drew Jay Rice's attention when he showed up at the restaurant.
Huge cow right outside of the restaurant, because right behind the restaurant is Minerva Dairy, which is a huge
Dairy farm.
Dairy
farm,
company.
and they like produce butter and I mean it's everywhere. We would get it all the time in North
What
Carolina.
that you can find in the South.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, there's a huge
I'm
cow
going.
right in front of the
I'm
restaurant.
going. Okay, what are the hours if I go there? What
All
are
the
the hours?
time. Let's go.
It's open like late, like a bar night. Is it like?
Yeah, I mean they probably close about 9 or 10 o'clock, but
Okay,
yeah.
so it's not like a 2-8. Okay, all right.
no. But go have some.
Make sure you get one of the grinders.
Yeah, go,
One of the
go,
grinders.
go get an Eastern.
Well,
oven baked.
I got to go down to Canton to visit our Hartville folks, so I'm assuming that's not very far
Yeah.
for me to wander over there. I can't imagine.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, get an Eastern oven baked. While we're talking about food, Dustin, tell our listeners about Teresa's Pizza.
okay, we've just been talking about food all night. I love it. So Teresa's Pizza, guys, Mayfield Heights and University Heights here in Cleveland. Been around since 1969. If you have a business that needs to have some catering done, go to Teresa's Pizza. It's a great pizza company here in Cleveland. Like I said, 1969. What's really cool about these folks, they put the cheese on top and then all the ingredients are underneath. They have so many amazing pizzas. But if you go to the University Heights one or the one in Mayfield Heights, try their pizzas. And by the way, we will be doing an awesome giveaway here in the next week for a $50 gift card. We'll put it out there. You'll share it with everybody in the social media. But Teresa's Pizza, since 1969 here in Cleveland, order it, go there for lunch. Great owner, Ray, right here, locally owned business, Teresa's Pizza.
There you have it. There you have it. Dustin, David, any closing thoughts as we wrap up on a beautiful Wednesday evening?
I will say that I was listening earlier to another podcast earlier today, and he mentioned the word 6 weeks. 6 weeks until we are at opening week, and that is I didn't realize just how close we are. The summer is flying by, off season is flying by. Like we said, camp starts next week. The Hall of Fame game is next week, and then before we know it, we're getting into preseason games, and then right after Labor Day, the season starts, and I'm just excited. Off season always seems so long. Every year it seems longer than it was the year before. So this is the anticipation's growing. I'm excited to watch some football in our new home down here in Florida. That's pretty cool. We got a great setup for it, and it's going to be a good year. I'm optimistic for all three of our teams, if you will, between the Buckeyes, the Browns, and the Lions. And it's going to be an exciting season to see just what plays out.
All right. Hey, David, real quick, can you just give me a Go Guardians?
Go Guards.
Yeah, that's right. That's what I thought. All right, Dustin, what's your thoughts as we wrap up on a beautiful evening?
That's 2 out of 3 against the Tigers. That's important because they're in our division. Closing thoughts. Going to be real exciting. It's going to be a big show, big fun-packed show next week, guys. So tune in. Stump will be joining us next week. The doctor will be joining us. And, yes, from West Virginia, Charlie Hewlett will be the long snapper, two of the most long, no pun intended, long-standing Cleveland Browns with Joel Petonio and himself. He'll be giving us an update from camp. I think he'll give a very unique perspective what it's been like to play. 10 years. That seems like an eternity in the National Football League.
Yeah.
He came with the Browns in 2014. This will be going into his 10th season. So we're excited to have him and Coach Stump Mitchell on next week. So it'll be a big show. And by the way, and a birdie appearance to end the show because it is the Dog Pound. But next week, more exciting stuff to mention soon about Stump. So stay tuned, guys. We got some exciting stuff coming into the future. And you're going to find all about that in the next couple of weeks. So
yeah, stay tuned. All right. Thanks, everybody, for joining. We appreciate you. Stay safe, stay healthy. And as always, Browns fans, go Browns.
Go Browns.
Browns.
Also, go Guardians.
Go Guards.
Go Guards.